Good morning, top of the morning to you. Only the best to you. We're going to talk about education versus success in life. Certainly, we all understand the importance of developing our education with the background that we may have. One of my great mentors in life was Mort Utley, who was instrumental in developing Jefferson National Life Insurance Company in Indianapolis. He was one of my three mentors in life that I had. He was a keynote speaker at the Southwestern Company, the company that I worked with, door-to-door book business for 19 years in the business, 8 years with the Southwestern Company. He was the keynote speaker every Friday of 6 weeks in a row, depending on when colleges got out of school. And he helped develop Jefferson National Life Insurance Company. When he joined the company, it was a $42 million life insurance company. When he left 22 years later, it was a $12 billion company. So he had a lot to offer about insights about education and applying your best of best to a given field of an endeavor. Well, so happened he lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and at the time I lived in Phoenix also because I had my own company for the last 11 years of my door-to-door book business career. Well, I spent a lot of time over at his house. I burn his ears off. I say to other people that everything I know I've stolen from other people, but I made a point to only steal from the best. Well, he told me about the secrets of success and how he developed what he had done in life. And it welded into my ears, and I worshiped every single thing that he said. One thing that he brought out that I'll never forget, and I hope never to forget anything that he brought out, was that he said, Doug, and that was my middle name. People, my best friends, always call me Doug. Raymond, of course, is my professional publisher name of my book, The Winning Advantage, Tap Into Your Richest Resources, which is one I recommend highly. It'll give you the guidelines of success and how to eliminate those obstacles and make them into opportunities. But he said, Doug, if you ever find a career or a job that you love so much, you do it for nothing. But yet you do it so well, people want you bad enough to pay you to do it. He said, you found your niche in life. He said, but less than 4% of the working population ever finds their niche in life. He said, you got to have a burning desire. You got to have a fighting spirit. You got to strive for perfection, and you got to have perseverance, and you have faith in God, believe in God that things are going to work out in your favor. And this perseverance, this discipline necessary, is so important in life. Only 4% of the population actually ever realizes their best of best in their given opportunities. Are you working in a way right now that you're utilizing the pearls that have been given to you? Are you doing just the job that you're doing in order to make house payments, paying for the college education for your kids, or maybe satisfying the car payments and things of necessary, intermediate things that are necessary at the moment? Is that all that you're doing? And that's what you're doing? Well, that you are to be congratulated in a lot of ways because you're not at home sitting and waiting for the government to send me a check. I talked to my dad. I asked him after 45 years that he worked with a major in engineering, mechanical engineering, from Texas A&M, which is a renowned college in Dallas, Texas. In the state of Texas. And he worked in the 1940s. He was in school. Then, of course, they didn't have student loans. And he worked in a dairy, and he paid his way through school. His mother was in the Avon business. She worked over 40 years selling Avon. He lost his daddy in a very adverse circumstance back in the early 20s, real estate business. And so I asked him, did you enjoy your career, 45 years, working with 6 great companies? And he said, no, he hated his career. He hated his job. I said, you hated it? Well, why did you do it, for 45 years? He said, well, I had house payments, I had car payments, I had 2 boys to put through school. What do you think I'm going to do? Come home and tell your mother to do something else, but I don't know what it'd be? Well, I asked him, why did you pick the career then? He said, well, during the summer times, I was working in a grocery store, and Mr. Day, the manager of the store came by and slapped me on the back and said, "You're so good in math, you need to be an engineer someday." Well, I took that as a route to follow, something I need to do. Well, the things that you're doing, have you taken for the right reasons? Was it only because of influence, maybe of a relative doing what you're doing, and maybe that you thought you'd take it up too? Maybe it was an influence of some other circumstance that had no basis in reality, but yet was inspirational to you, and that's why you took it up. A person must be connected emotionally to whatever they're going to be doing. We found that to be. It must be your passion. It must be your passion. Do you really feel within yourself that what you're doing is something that you were led to do, guided to do, made to do? And this has to eliminate all the other problems. Well, what we call it is pursue of your passion. You have to find your passion, your purpose in life. That is your purpose, is your passion. Well, yes, establish a purpose, and it's more than just working on a job and making house payments or putting kids through school. Yes, those are derivatives of that passion and that purpose, but it's not the real purpose. And so find out. Mainly, we all want to be happy. One of the great speakers that I was introduced to early in life, his name was Cabot Robert. He said, there's a sign on everybody's back, and that is, it reads, "Make me feel important." Everybody wants to be accepted and felt important. That's why many times we move into groups of organizations that we may not agree with, but we want to be accepted. We don't want to be rejected by those groups. And so we go into those organizations. Well, okay, so you found your passion. And then after you find your passion, you know that we want to be happy. Well, servicing other people, I have come to realize in my own life that the greatest source of happiness in this life is adding value to the lives of other people. Whatever the source that may be, whether it's building a brick wall for a next door neighbor, whether it's building an organization, a company that services many, many people and make them a better life for them, whatever it may be. And then when you find your passion, you've got to have your heart involved. It's got to be your heart involved, and therefore you set goals. You set goals, and your reach should always be further than your grasp. It's got to be a heart-connected note. It really does. And throughout life, we have many opportunities to do this. I know understanding the career opportunities, this is important. Examine them. And you do this through mentors in life. I had the Mort Utley mentor, but then I had two other mentors also. And asking them questions. I know there were different ways of learning things, but then one of the things that I learned through many hours of depression was that the mentors add value to your life, learning from the experience of others. This is an important asset. Also, reading books of people that have done well in life, the posterity that they have left for others, the Winston Churchills, the Vincent Peales. These have left books, the Charles Schwabs of nature, left in their books for posterity to gain from. It's important. So you have mentors, you have books, and then you have seminar opportunities through webinars, seminars, taking notes, learning from others through a large scale basis. And we must have a plan. You develop a plan of action. Don't just wander. There'd be a wandering generality. Don't do that. You want to have a plan set into action, and therefore you'll reap the kind of results that you want to do. I know my uncle was very much one of our mentors, Raymond Kendrick, who I'm named after, my first name Raymond. He was raised on a farm in 60 miles south of Waco in Texas. And at 14 years old, he woke up and just said that farming was not going to be his life. 5 generations of families have owned farms, and he just was not willing to do that. He said getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, pulling calves and changing meals for calves is not what he wanted to do. And so he decided he wouldn't do that. Well, he left the farm and hitchhiked into Waco. Well, at 14 years old, what are you going to do for a living? Well, he washed cars. He washed cars for many years. Make a long story short, after 40 years in the business, he owned 3 city blocks in downtown Waco. And I burned his ears off. How did you do it? What did you know now that you'd like to have known 30 years ago? Tell me the reason that you did what you did. And learning from others is a key point. This is the thing that I want to bring out in this podcast, is learning from mentors. Ask questions. I know I went down to visit one of my stepsons at University of Texas, and he was a great student. He was a very smart young man and made over 1,500 on the SAT test. And during his last year, I went down on a monthly basis and talked to him about success principles. But during his last year, he called me up and said, Doug, I want to be a lawyer. I'm going to go to Harvard next year and learn how to be a lawyer and live my life in that way. Well, I didn't cut it down because I knew if I did, he'd definitely do it. I said, well, why don't we talk to 3 or 4 other attorneys here in Dallas and ask them about why they want to be a lawyer and why they want to follow suit in that career. He said, that was a great idea. I think I'll do it. Well, over a 3-month period, we interviewed 3 attorneys. We went out to lunch separately and had wonderful times with them. He asked some great questions. I was quite impressed with the question he asked. He asked them, why did they choose to be an attorney? What were the setbacks and what are the hard times that they had to go through? And after talking to 4 of them, he looked at me privately and he said, Doug, I've definitely decided I do not want to be an attorney. Well, what a waste that would have been to be an attorney, to go through law school and go into a career that he really didn't like and really couldn't fit into. That would be a tremendous waste. We call it living behind invisible bars. We call it domestic entrapment. And how many of you are living in a world of domestic entrapment? Things that you might have led to be, but yet weren't fit and weren't quite ready to be, and never learned and adjusted to it. You have to be emotionally tied to whatever you're doing in order to be successful at it. I know in selling books, we work 6 days a week, 12 weeks a summer, and 13 hours a day. And if I would have said to myself at 12 o'clock every day at noon, oh, I've got to spend another 9 hours on here taking rejection, that would have been a different set of results than saying to myself, oh, I just have 9 hours left. I've got to make another 5 sales no matter what. Well, the different attitude makes a lot different in your position in life. And you look for the good things. Yes, there will be setbacks. There will be times that you wish you weren't there. But there will also be times, if you're emotionally attached to the results, that you will see through. I saw many people go home during the summertime. We lost 1/3 of our students the first 3 weeks because they couldn't take rejection. And we lost another 1/3 by the end of the summer. And the 1/3 that was left over, only a half of them would come back. Well, why is it that? Well, they couldn't take rejection. They couldn't take the ridicule. They might have been rejected at school. They might have been bullied at school. Oh, you can't do that. You're a nobody. Well, there are many parents, unfortunately, as much as they love their kids, they might have told them, you're never going to be anybody. You're a nobody. You're never going to amount to anything. Well, this is something that has influenced people from way back. Well, if you lived in that kind of a home life, if you lived in that kind of environment, don't let it affect your future. You look at it as a past, and it's not something that's part of you now. You are a special individual. You are one of 7.6 billion people on the planet. Nobody in the world is quite like you. You are very special. You have unique talents and abilities. But are you really learning from them? Are you earning from them? Are you capitalizing from them? Are you utilizing them in the voice, in the body, in the job that you're doing right now? Most of us would say no. I often ask the question, if you had $30 million set aside, liquid account in the bank, would you be doing the job that you're doing right now for nothing? That you'd take in no pay, but you do it because you love it so much. And most people, if they're honest, they would say no, they wouldn't. And so if you have the desire to improve, which I'm sure you do, or you wouldn't be watching this, and do better than what you've ever done in your life, then pick up a copy of my book, The Winning Advantage, Tap into Your Richest Resources. Thank you, and good evening. Use your talents, embrace your abilities, and pick up a copy of my book. Click the link on my website, thewinningadvantage.com, and purchase one of my books on Amazon. See you next week, Tuesday, 9 o'clock.